Man, can't believe that Christmas is almost here. Okay, let's see what it says.
Dear Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, I have been watching your blog show ever since you've talked about me on your top 13 scariest monsters in a live-action film. And so far, I'm impressed with your blog show's progress. Also, Santa tells me your behavior and Christmas spirit makes him proud. However, my helpers have been watching your mother, father, and sister as well. And it has come to my attention that they haven't been having a very good holiday attitude this year. Your mom has been shutting your grandmother, aunts, uncles, and cousins away, and she's always calling you rude and lazy. And above all, she makes you cut your mane against your will. Your father has been stubborn, abusive, puts impossible demands on you, and he never takes you seriously. And your sister has been avoiding you for months. Due to this poor behavior, I have no choice but to send them to the underworld as a punishment. Unless you can blog my movie from 2015. If you can succeed by Christmas Eve, then your family will be spared from my wrath. Good luck, Krampus.
Looks like I have an urgent job to do. Well, all I gotta do is just watch the movie, write my script, and describe the movie as best as I can, so that my family will be spared. Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, for today's episode, we're going to talk about a dark and ancient spirit, one whom you folks don't want to meet around Christmas. Krampus. According to Central European folklore, Krampus is a horned anthropomorphic figure described as a half-goat, half-demon, or probably a demonic satyr, who, during the Christmas season, punishes children who have misbehaved, in contrast to Santa Claus, who rewards the well-behaved with gifts. Krampus is one of the companions of St. Nicholas in several regions, including Austria, Bavaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Hungary, northern Italy, including South Tyrol and the province of Trento, as well as Slovakia and Slovenia. The origin of the figure is quite unclear, though some folklorists have, postulated it as having pre-Christian origins. Now, I'm not totally sure, but I think it was during my elementary years when I was introduced to Krampus, when I was learning about many different Santa-themed figures, but I'm not totally sure. It's been far too long for me to remember those days. Also, about 2 years ago, I meant to talk about Krampus on my top 13 scariest monsters in a live-action film. And of course, he made it to number 5 on said list. Anyway, thanks to a request from the dark ancient spirit himself, I'm going to look into a Christmas horror film from 2015, which, was my proper introduction to Krampus, and was given to us by Universal Studios and Legendary Pictures. Released on December 4th, 2015, the movie is Krampus. So let's get started. While the holiday season represents the most magical time of year, ancient European folklore warns of Krampus, a horned beast who punishes naughty children at Christmas time. When dysfunctional family squabbling causes young Max to turn his back on Christmas, it unleashes the wrath of the fearsome demon. As Krampus lays siege to the fractured family's home, the whole family must band together to save one another from a monstrous fate. So, what are my thoughts on the movie? Well, I never saw it in theaters, though I wanted to. I just never got around to asking my parents or my job coaches to take me. But I was fortunate to buy this DVD from Barnes & Noble's while I was recovering from a giant cell tumor surgery. And after watching this movie, I thought it was very thrilling, intense, and scary. But it has a good moral, so I want to consider this movie as a guilty pleasure of mine. Now let's move on to Mustang notes. The film was directed by Michael Dougherty, who also directed the 2007 horror movie Trick or Treat. Dougherty had always wanted to do a scary Christmas movie, but the idea did not take form until his friends sent him an e-card featuring the Krampus creature, which was, according to him, just love at first sight. Although, this, according to Dougherty, happened in the ancient times of the internet. The project would not be fleshed out until 2011, at which point he would team up with Zach Shields and Todd Casey to figure out the story. Principal photography began on March 12, 2015. Creature effects were made by Weta Workshop. And yes, this is the same Weta who helped with films like Avatar, the 2005 King Kong remake, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and of course, The Adventures of Tintin. The music was composed by Douglas Pipes, who not only did the music for Trick or Treat, but he also composed for Monster House. And in my opinion, the music Pipes did for this movie makes this very thrilling at times. Plus, I like this movie's cover of Carol of the Bells, which is heard during the end credits. Also, while the scene during the opening credits doesn't mostly have anything to do with the film's plot, I do like the song It's Beginning to Look Like Christmas that plays during said sequence. Also, some parts of the movie are almost reminiscent to such films like Gremlins, Hobgoblins, and Child's Play. Sort of. For example, in one part of the movie, we see a bunch of mischievous gingerbread men attack Howard in the kitchen. And during the same time, we see a monstrous teddy bear, an evil toy robot, a demonic cherub, and a hungry Jack-in-the-Box attack Tom, Sarah, and Linda in the attic. Plus, the ending, where Max confronts Krampus and apologizes before falling into Tartarus, reminds me of a similar scene from A Christmas Carol. Also, I like the parts where we see Max's advent calendar open a door as Christmas approaches throughout the movie. But my favorite scene in the film is the stop-motion flashback sequence, which tells the story of when Omi first met Krampus when she was a little girl. To me, that scene was both emotional and haunting, and I find it interesting that Krampus left behind an ornament with his name on it. as a reminder of what happens when hope is lost, when belief is forgotten, and the Christmas spirit dies. But I wonder if these kind of ornaments can be sold anywhere, because I'd like to own one of these and put it on my tree. However, there are a couple things I don't like in this movie. For example, the atmosphere during the blizzards at night. While it is intense, it's almost like a white or blackout, meaning that I can't see much throughout those parts, especially when a few characters get captured by snow sharks or get frozen. And speaking of characters, well, most of them are not very likable in this movie, in my opinion anyway. Now let's move on to the cast. Our main character, Max, is played by MJ Anthony, who has been in A Bad Mom's Christmas and in Disney's 2016 live-action remake of The Jungle Book. In my opinion, Max is very relatable, and I think his Christmas letter to Santa was very honest. And I deeply respect that Max wants Christmas to be like it used to. However, Max does have a little problem when it comes to fighting and talking back. Next we have Max's dad, Tom, played by Adam Scott, whom I remember from the 2010 Piranha movie. Tom appears to be a bit more level-headed than his wife, and tries his best to keep his cool during the family dinner, despite the constant chaos around him. Tom is also quick to take charge and protect his family at the slightest hint of danger. Plus, he tries to be a good father to his son, and he even tries to cheer him up after the dinner fight. Next is Max's mom, Sarah, played by Toni Collette, who was the witch in The Thief and the Cobbler. Throughout the movie, Sarah is stressed by the sheer number of people in her house and the chaos that they're causing, even before Krampus shows up. She expresses complete frustration at the announcement that Linda has brought her alcoholic Aunt Dorothy along for Christmas. Next we have Howard, played by David Koechner, whom was in the Austin Powers movie, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Now, Howie is a typical conservative, gun-toting Southerner, and is said to constantly bring his shotgun around with him wherever he goes. It is implied that he wished that his daughters, Jordan and Stevie, were boys, so that he could take them to hunt and play sports, and thus, he has raised them as tomboys. Now, if I can be honest, I don't really like this guy, due to the fact that he can be a real jerk at times, and, of course, he considers what happened to Omi as a quote-unquote twisted bedtime story. Plus, I think his daughters are real brats due to them reading Max's letter to Santa Claus and mocking him for it. And his son Howie Jr., while he never really talks throughout the movie, he can be a real pig. Another character to talk about is Omi, played by Krista Stadler. I find Omi to be the most interesting character in this movie, not only due to her German language, but also from her backstory when she lost her Christmas spirit when she was a child. Also, I think it was very brave of Omi to stay behind in the house to hold Krampus off. And finally, we have Krampus, portrayed by Luke Hawker and vocalized by Gideon Emery. Now, I may have said my thoughts about him during my top 13 scariest monsters in a live-action film, but I'm going to say it again, but in a different way. Now, in the movie, Krampus appears as a monstrous demonic satyr with hook chains that makes him a tad similar to Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. Also, Krampus wears a screaming Santa mask with a long gray beard, and he has long claw-like fingers, and he wears a patchwork robe trimmed with dirty fur. And I really think his job to punish naughty people by dragging them into Tartarus is very devilish. Plus, the scene where we see his long, slimy tongue was really twisted and creepy. Also, I think after watching the behind-the-scenes video on YouTube, I think Luke Hawker's experience inside the Krampus costume is a tad similar to my experience portraying as the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come at Musical Theater Village. The rest of the cast include Allison Tolman, Conchata Ferrell, Stephania LaVey Owen, Lolo Owen, Queenie Samuel, and Maverick Flack. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Krampus is not a great movie, but it's not terrible to watch during the holidays. While most of the characters weren't very likable, and the blizzard scenes weren't very easy to see through, the movie is still worth seeing during the holiday season. Plus, some parts are very thrilling and intense, and the stop-motion sequence was very interesting. And lastly, this movie does have a good moral to not lose your Christmas spirit and to respect the traditions. And like I said 2 years ago, after seeing this movie, I want to be as good a person as anybody and never end up on Santa's naughty list. And trust me, I don't ever want to have an encounter with Krampus in my life. And I hope that other folks out there can clean up their acts and change their ways. Otherwise, they'll be next on Krampus's list. As for my rating, I'll give this movie a 61% out of 100. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. Be sure to stay tuned for my final Christmas blog of 2018, where we look into one of the greatest stop-motion films and one that's considered as my favorite director's magnum opus, Mustang Power.